We will be taking questions at the end. And as you come up with questions, if you need clarification on something, make sure you drop that in the Q&A box, and we'll be going through that at the end of the presentation. So get your pens, get your paper, grab a beverage of choice, get all your furry family, and let's get started. So tonight, what we're talking about is the healthy, holistic pet for life blueprint. And this is, we're going to go through how to help your pets live a long and healthy life with a holistic approach. Sound good? Okay, this is the strategy we are going to be covering tonight. And I want you to know this is value packed. I want you to turn off all of those distractions. If you have a phone next to you, just put it on airplane mode unless it's the presentation. So turn off all those distractions. And I want you to really tune into what we're going to talk about. So we're going to be going through feeding your pet the best quality food. How do you balance the immune system? How do we create a safe environment for our pets? How do we balance the emotional health? And how do you achieve optimal physical health? So why is this information important, you may be asking? Well, here's the thing. Everything you've been told may be wrong. Now, I want to start with talking about a few points that are big points in the pet world. Unfortunately, 1 in 2 dogs and 1 in 3 cats will develop cancer at some point in their life. Those animals right there were my special fur family, and all 3 of them developed cancer before I knew how to implement these holistic approaches. You've had a pet with cancer or chronic illness. You want to learn everything possible to prevent it from happening again. I know that there's a lot of pet parents on this call tonight that want to know everything, how to achieve everything, how to implement everything to help prevent this from happening or to fix their pets. And I want you to know that genes account for less than 10% of disease that occurs in our pets. The rest is up to you. And here's a crazy fact. Your pets are exposed to over 85,000 toxins a year. So now, are you like most pet parents? Most are stuck in that vicious cycle of the same health problems, giving a drug, expecting the problem to be fixed, but their pets only feel better for days or maybe months, but the same issue keeps coming back. Or do you want to be more like a holistic pet parent? Only holistic pet parents can feel confident that the root cause is being addressed to clear the problem, achieve optimal health, and has the tools to balance and maintain a healthy state without relying on numerous vet visits for the same problem. So which side do you want to be on with your pets and your fur family? And I want to go through the definition of holistic because I think this gets lost in translation a lot of times. And when we look at it of relating to holism or relating to or concerned with wholes or with complete systems rather than with analysis of treatment of or dissection into parts, essentially what a holistic approach is looking at is how is everything interconnected? How is the body working together? How are we connected to the ecosystem? How are we connected to the environment? All of these factors play a part. And it's when we miss one of those pieces of the puzzle, that's where we get stuck on that vicious treadmill of going to the vet over and over and over again for the same problem. So I want you to settle in and stick around if you're ready for a change in your pet's care. You know there's a better way to achieve optimal health, but you're overwhelmed about where to start. You're frustrated and tired of all the vet visits and bills that don't give you progress. You want to know that you're doing everything possible to help your pet live a long and vibrant life. And you want a supportive community to help guide you, support you on the right path. And you're curious about those different ways to achieve health in your fur family. Now's the time. I'm going to be open and transparent with you. This is the time to leave the masterclass now if you still want those quick fixes and you don't care about finding the root cause. You don't have time to take action. You think you already know everything about pet medicine. You think kibble diets are the best food for your pet. You only believe there's one way to look at health. And you get mad when I give you 45 minutes of strategy that's helped hundreds of pets, and then complain when I make you an offer for exclusive opportunity to work with me, because I will be inviting you to apply for our Healthy Holistic Pet for Life blueprint at the end of this call. So be aware of that, get prepped for it, since I'm really excited and I want to see if you're a good fit, since my sole mission on this planet is to make sure you have the tools, the tactics, and the support to help your fur family live their longest, healthiest, and happiest lives possible. So stay until the end for the Q&A, but I want to know right now in that Q&A box, who's ready to dive into the material? Drop it in the Q&A. Let me know. I see hands raising. I love it. And as you can tell, I'm really excited about this topic and being able to share this with you. So remember, we'll do the Q&A at the end. I'll pop back on at the end of this presentation. But first, I want to dive a little bit into the tactics and jump into a little history on what qualifies me to deliver this life-changing information to you tonight. So essentially, a little bit of background about who I am, Dr. Katie Woodley. I started my veterinary career as a young, naive veterinarian in New Zealand. I thought using those big brand kibble pet foods was the best for my pets, making sure I did all the vaccines and dewormers I learned about in vet school. I thought I was doing everything right. And then my amazing husband developed an autoimmune disorder at the start of 2014, and it completely changed how we looked at medicine. I started learning more about an entirely different world of medicine that focused on the root cause versus symptomatic care. And I quickly realized that I could be doing so much better for my own furry patients. So I became acupuncture certified, but quickly came up against other vets in my practice, not liking the type of medicine I practiced because they didn't believe in holistic. You may be experiencing this right now with your own veterinarians. However, I still learned everything that I could about holistic medicine, became certified in Chinese herbal medicine, and continued to learn more about pet nutrition. And clients were actually driving hours for help with their pets because nothing else was working. However, I was still coming up against vets that didn't believe in this path of healing. I was seeing amazing results. I loved this new path I was on. So I created my own business focusing solely on holistic medicine. So the Natural Pet Doctor came to be. The Natural Pet Doctor was growing, and then something happened that completely rocked my world. My soul pup Finn started having seizures, and we diagnosed a brain tumor. Finn was changed to a home-cooked diet years prior. We put him on herbs to help him. We even avoided 2 knee surgeries due to torn cruciate ligaments, and he was a 75-pound German Shepherd. But the worst part was he didn't do well with the conventional medications to help the brain swelling and the seizures that were secondary to the brain tumor. And we were told there was nothing else to try, and he probably had a week left with us. So maybe you've been there too. Hearing there's nothing else you can do, being told that raw food is going to kill your pet. Maybe you've been laughed at by your veterinarian or had eyes rolled at you. Or maybe you're even staying up for hours on end, researching, trying to find the answer to help your pet feel better. But here's the thing. There was something else we could do for my Finn: holistic medicine. We were able to give him another amazing year of life with great quality when there was nothing left on the conventional side. Finn helped me realize even more that pet parents are being told every day there's nothing else you can do, or to just wait and see when there's another world of medicine they can use. And here's the best part. I realized I can help more pet parents by teaching pet parents online how I helped Finn when he was given a week to live. My husband's life changed with holistic medicine when we were told there's nothing more you can do other than strong drugs. But by realizing there's a blueprint for achieving optimal health, I turned my years of holistic pet experience into a program that breaks it down into easy to implement steps. The results are amazing and help pets live longer and with more vibrant health. So I want to know, Are you ready to learn more? I want to see those hands go up. I want to see in the Q&A. Awesome. I love you guys. You're great. All right. So keep in mind, I started with those doubters, those naysayers, those critics, but seeing those results with my own family, furry and non-furry, and all my patients, I became so determined to share those tactics that give pets health and pet parents hope again. And these tactics I'm about to share truly changed my life. These are just a few of the amazing results we've gotten for pets across the world. Finding Dr. Katie through a friend's referral was the best thing that could have happened for our Dane girl, Jazz. She suffers from lymphedema and has severe environmental allergies that even conventional medicine and allergy injections were having trouble managing. Enter the holistic and natural approach of Dr. Woodley. She is thriving today with no need of her allergy injections, very little use of conventional medications. She can be a dog again and go outside without being booted up. And then we have another one. I'm so happy to have found Dr. Katie. I spent countless dollars with regular vets regarding issues with my 16-year-old cat. Tests were showing nothing, and we were told to just give him medicine. They all chastised me for feeding a raw diet, which I firmly believe in. Dr. Katie did just the opposite. She also put him on Chinese herbs and enzymes to address what are obviously GI issues. He began improving within a couple days. And then we have other results. Dr. Katie's amazing. We have two little boys, Henry and Otis, who are adorable, right? Henry got diagnosed with a torn ACL, and we were told we needed surgery ASAP. We decided to try a more natural way instead of surgery, and boy, are we glad we did. We came across Dr. Katie, and she is fantastic. She's everything we'd want in a vet. So quick fast forward, Henry's now on herbal supplements, gets acupunctures, doing awesome, and no surgery. Maybe you can relate to one of these patients, or maybe you're at their beginning stage and feeling lost and hopeless and confused on where to go. And then we have Dr. Katie's amazing. I love giving my animals the opportunity to be healthy the holistic way before the need to turn to Western medicine. Dr. Katie treats every one of her patients like her own pet. The amazing support she gives the human patient too is incredible. Dr. Katie helped my 11-and-a-half-year-old Great Dane with arthritis, another one at 7 years old with a pulled muscle, two puppies with chronic UTIs and immune issues. I'm happy to say the amount of improvement or the non-existence of issues through herbs, acupuncture, and diet has been achievable through Dr. Katie. So you too can learn the path. And we've been able to help pets overcome allergies, liver disease, IBD, and many other diseases. We've been able to increase remission times with cancer, get pets off prescription diets, prevent disease, feel their best, reduce vet bills, and help pet parents feel empowered, confident, and supported with holistic pet care. So are you ready to do the same? Give me a ready in that chat box. And by having this blueprint at your fingertips, imagine where your pet's health could be in 1 year. So consider this your fast pass. So let's dive right in. So I want you to look at this. These are the 5 pillars to achieving optimal health. It seems pretty simple, and it can be, but it can also feel really overwhelming if you're not sure where to turn. And these may be new concepts to you if your vet hasn't discussed these areas. So let's break it down. So we're going to discuss gut health and nutrition, immune health, environmental health, emotional health, and physical health. So step number 1, I want every single pet parent here to be thinking about and assessing your pet's nutrition. The time is now to get more fresh food into your pet's diet. But why is nutrition so important? Well, here it is. Food is the foundation for health. Unfortunately, though, veterinarians receive very little nutritional education while at vet school. Because of this, most pets are put on kibble, processed diets. Everything is tied to gut health and that microbiome. And if the food going into our pets is not optimal, this can lead to disease, shorter lifespans, and more vet bills over the life of your pet. Our dogs and cats have 0 requirements for carbohydrates. I want to repeat that again. Our dogs and our cats have 0 requirements for carbohydrates. So think about the food you're feeding. Maybe you're feeding a kibble diet. That's a really high carbohydrate diet, especially for cats that are obligate carnivores. But here's a really neat study that can also give you hope again. Even just improving that diet with adding fresh foods as toppers, you can reduce the risk of cancer up to 90%. All right, listen up. If your pet has some of these symptoms, I want you to go through this list and think about, is my pet showing this? So unhealthy gut signs. So when we look at gut health, we're looking at the microbiome, which encompasses trillions of different types of bacteria, protozoa, fungi. That's the entire ecosystem that when it is functioning optimally, the rest of the body functions well, we achieve optimal health. But these can be some of the signs that the gut is just not happy or healthy. So weight loss, dull hair coat, autoimmune diseases, allergies, sensitive GI tract, so they tend to loose stool or even vomiting, bad breath, even with clean teeth, inflammation, ear infections, anxiety or behavior issues, and even thyroid issues. So if your pet has some of these symptoms, there's some component of dysbiosis present, and the food you are feeding your pets just got even more important. And here's a crazy fact. Veterinarians are the only medical profession that recommends a dry processed kibble diet for the life of your pet. So what can you do as a pet parent? If you're not currently feeding a fresh food diet, so a raw diet, lightly cooked, freeze-dried, this is where you can start small and build your way up, starting with 10% fresh food as a topper. So we can utilize the power of functional foods, or what we call superfoods. These are foods that are really high in nutritional value. So they're going to include things like blueberries that are high in antioxidants and vitamin C, broccoli, which is really high in sulforaphane, which supports liver detox pathways and also helps prevent cancer, or using foods like sardines. And whether you have a dog or a cat, we can utilize different foods. So for cats, adding in 1 to 2 sardines a week as a topper on their normal food, or as an additional snack or lunchtime treat. And then adding in, like, broccoli sprouts are a great source of using your cruciferous vegetables and doing a tiny little pinch of that and mixing it up with your cat's food. A lot of cats will eat that. We also have to be looking at our labels, our food labels. So turning that bag around, turning that can around and looking for inflammatory ingredients. Does that canned food state that it has carrageenan in it? That's a known GI irritant. So by knowing what we're looking for, by being able to learn how to read those pet food labels, you regain a lot of power and being able to choose foods that are healthy and not inhibiting healing in your pets. You also want to decide what type of food is ideal for you and your pets and the budget. I know that not everyone can feed a raw food diet. It can get really expensive, especially if you have a giant breed dog or a large breed dog. And it may be something where the best you can do right now is just feed a higher quality kibble. And that's where those toppers can play a big part. As you saw in that study, just by supplementing the diet, a kibble processed diet a couple times a week, we can reduce the risk of cancer up to 90%. If you're looking to transition to fresh food or less processed diet, then what we want to do is transition over a 2-week period, looking at starting with adding in that fresh food as a topper, so less than 10%, slowly building up. I usually say start with 25% new, 75% old, do that for 3 to 5 days, no GI upset, continue that at increasing by 25% at a time. And if you just need to add fresh foods in, do it at least 3 times a week. And remember, most veterinarians are not taught about fresh food or raw food diets in veterinary school. So take what they say with a grain of salt, and don't always continue to do your research. Don't always rely on that to be the end all be all for the types of food that you feed. Continue to do your research, join communities that can help guide you, partner with holistic veterinarians that can be your guide and your coach. The biggest thing also with gut health and nutrition is we need to use foods and supplements that support gut health. So essentially I go through removing, replacing, rebalancing, and repairing. If we don't remove the inflammatory ingredients, which unfortunately are in a lot of prescription diets, so things like corn and wheat gluten or even carrageenan, we're going to stay on that frustrating treadmill where that inflammation continues. And you're trying to beat the inflammation with supplements and other things that you're doing, but however, they're eating it every single day. So we need to be aware, what do we need to remove? We can look at replacing some of these foods with high quality, fresh foods that are those superfoods. Looking at rebalancing that microbiome. How do we rebalance gut health? We put in things like digestive enzymes, probiotics. We're essentially replenishing and helping to rebalance what should be there. And then looking at, does your pet have some of those unhealthy signs of gut health? And if they do, we're probably dealing with what we call leaky gut, where the food, bacteria, toxins are leaking through that gut lining because it's inflamed and it's creating an inflammatory response in the body. And we need to repair that gut lining. We can use things that are soothing to the gut lining, like slippery elm, like marshmallow root. We can make sure we're getting good prebiotics in to help feed the good bacteria so they can produce all the things that they need to produce to feed themselves, to reduce inflammation, to support optimal brain health. All these things are all interconnected, but we gotta support gut health. So I want you to look at, when we think about feed grade or food grade, what does that mean? Feed grade are your pet foods. They're the foods that are not suitable to go to a human grade. Think about that. Why wouldn't we think that our food would be what's in pet food? So we know that feed grade pet foods are not required to be human edible. These are the disease meats. There are no safety laws around them. They can use 4D meat, so diseased, dead, dying, disposed, so your roadkill. And there's no guarantee of the quality of the food. So when we actually feed our pets real food, this is where we can help them achieve optimal health. And then I want you to look at this. This is a prescription food diet. So now all I did was grab the ingredient list. And this is made for pets with allergies. Would you feed this to your pet? Just looking at the ingredient list. There is no real meat in this food for our dogs that are facultative carnivores or our cats that are obligate carnivores. Also, we know that soy protein isolate, vegetable oils, partially hydrogenated canola oil, we've been told not to feed that to ourselves. We've also got preservatives. We have more corn oil. These are all inflammatory ingredients. We also know that the toxins, pesticides like Roundup, are sprayed on those products. And those are what's going into our pets that already have a high level of inflammation, which is why they're being prescribed a prescription food. This is where guiding pet parents on being able to look at an ingredient list and go, I need to fix gut health first. That's going to help achieve reducing that inflammation in the body and help heal my pet. Now, keep in mind, I love this quote. The food you eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. So what's your pet's food doing to your pet? So tonight, I'm going to challenge you to take that bag, to take that can, to take a look at that ingredient list and also look at your pets and determine, do they have some of those unhealthy gut signs? And what's the one thing I can remove or replace to start supporting their gut health just a little bit better? And I promise you, those small actions will add up to big changes over time. The next step I want you to take a look at is assessing your pet's immune status. So is your pet's immune system strong, weak? Maybe it's being overworked. Maybe your pet has an autoimmune disease or they're immunodeficient and they're always sick all the time. This is an area that you may feel uncomfortable with. And this is where we need to look at what conversations are you having at the vets regarding vaccinations? Do you know what conversations to have? Is your pet healthy enough to be vaccinated? Are you deworming your pets without checking a stool sample? Does your pet need antibiotics for an ailment, or are there other really great natural alternatives you can use? And also, are you still using flea and tick conventional products? You may be wondering, well, okay, where do I start? So you can go to the WASAVA vaccine guidelines. This is what guides veterinarians, and I guarantee you they talk about vaccine titers there. This is where we can be proactive versus reactive to keeping your pets healthy. And you can be that advocate for your pets. You can ask your veterinarian to run titers. Titers show us the antibodies against things like parvo and distemper virus that show us if they're present, the body can mount an immune response if they came into contact with it. So why would we need another vaccination? So we can say no to unnecessary medications and vaccines. We can also ask to check a stool sample for parasites prior to just deworming, just because they're technically due. And we can also use supplements like chlorella or spirulina, these green functional foods at the time of necessary vaccinations to support the body, decrease the risk of adverse side effects, and help them mount an appropriate immune response while also detoxing the body. We can also look into alternatives for insect repellents and use natural remedies for your insect repellents versus insecticides, and using really strong toxins that may have a lot of adverse side effects. So how can you improve your pet's immune health? For one, feeding a species appropriate diet. Gut health is intimately connected to your pet's immune health. We know that 80% of the immune system is in the gut. So feeding the right foods to optimize the microbiome, feed those good bacteria, is essential. We also want to avoid toxins and allergens. We want to reduce stress in the environment. We know that chronic stress can cause immunosuppression in the body. We can use supplements to help boost immune health. So things like the spirulina, chlorella, we can use medicinal mushrooms in the food, and we can use things like essential fatty acids. And a big part that's really in your hands is keeping your pet at an ideal body weight, which leads me to the next step. You need to be assessing your pet's physical health. Is your pet in shape physically, but also what's going on at a mental health level? Now, I like this one just because we can all relate in this crazy time. It's a little bit different. One day, hopefully things will go back to a little bit more normalcy, but walking your dog, you're just kind of cruising, you're not thinking about anything. And then all of a sudden there's crazy stuff. There's toxins, there's all sorts of stressors. There's all these things, right, in the environment. It is not the same. And these things can affect physical health. They can affect emotional health. They can affect environmental health. They can affect gut health. So I bring that up because it truly shows that your changing environment can affect all of these different pillars. So, but I want you to ask yourself, is your pet overweight? We know that 60% of cats and 56% of dogs in the US were obese in 2018. I'm waiting for the next poll to come out, which was delayed due to all the craziness. I bet you it's even higher. And when we see that, that's insane. Over 50% of pets, 1 in 2 pets are overweight. And when we look at what happens to these overweight pets, it's not that just fat cells sit there and they just, it doesn't feel exactly comfortable. Those fat cells are putting extra pressure on the joints. They're releasing inflammatory mediators that are creating inflammation in the body. It can aggravate joint issues, orthopedic diseases like hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia. Because of that chronic inflammation, it increases the risk that your pets develop things like cancer or metabolic and endocrine disorders. It can put extra pressure on the respiratory system. It can lead to kidney dysfunction. Think about that fat. That fat is storing toxins. So chronic inflammation, obesity go hand in hand. And we know that overweight pets have a reduced life expectancy, a diminished quality of life, and studies have shown that up to 2 years can be lost just due to obesity. Now, one of the easy things you can do is assessing the body condition score of your dogs and your cats by simply running your hands along their side, looking at them from the side, seeing if there's a tummy tuck, and looking for that hourglass body shape. So that's another thing I want you to do tonight. Put your hands on your dogs and your cats and assess, where am I? Are we at a 5 or maybe we're at a 9 and we've got some work to do? And here's the body condition score charts for your cats. And this will all be shared with everyone to rewatch after the webinar. So you can go back and refer to these charts and help get your pet on the right path. But here are some quick tips for more activity and getting your pets lean. Get outside. Exercise helps tremendously with emotional health and physical health, not only for your pooch, and even some kitties that love doing that, and yourself. Getting cat towers, getting toys to encourage play, setting aside time each day for play with dogs and cats. Don't forget those cats. Cats should not sleep all day. We can use meal times as reward for play, especially with cats. There's no better time than to start like with a hunting game and play with them with a feathered toy, or hide little treats around the house. And then as a reward for that play with your cats, they get their food. We also need to be measuring calories and being careful that we're not overfeeding them. We can also feed less carbohydrates. Remember, we stated at the beginning, your dogs and your cats have 0 carbohydrate requirements. High carbohydrates, what happens in the body is that they're starch, they turn into sugar, they can lead to things like insulin resistance. So that's going to make it a lot harder for your pet to lose weight. It also makes your pets hungrier. So if you've ever had a dog or a cat where you're trying to get them to lose weight and they're like starving and you're like, I don't get it, I'm feeding them all this food, it could be because of insulin resistance and the carbohydrate levels are off. The other thing is too is high quality treats. So rather than just doing dry food as treats, we can look at freeze-dried organ meats, going back to those functional foods, freeze-dried liver, freeze-dried kidney, freeze-dried heart, especially if your pets have any underlying health issues. A cat with heart disease will benefit tremendously from freeze-dried heart treats because of the natural source of CoQ10, L-carnitine, and taurine. So that's the power. Rather than giving 15 supplements, we can use functional whole foods to replace that while we're also engaging with them and helping them. Also, puzzle toys are a great option for both your dogs and cats. They're really fun. They're really neat. There's a lot of different options out there. Nina Otterson has a lot of great puzzle toys. So definitely check those out. And I would get those into the house, especially if you are going into wintertime like we are here in the States and you may not be going out for exercise as much. You still want to stimulate the mind, which leads me to assessing your pet's emotional health. Is your pet's anxiety causing a health concern? It's a common cause of health issues. So what are some of the common causes of stress in your pets? So exposure to new things, people, pets, new environments. Maybe you have UPS packages coming every day, and every time the doorbell rings, the cats are diving under the bed. Separation from human family members. If you have a kid going off to college and the dog is really connected, that can be a stressor. If you're using negative training methods like punishment, think about, if something happens, they pee outside the litter tray, the cat, and you take their face and you shove it in the urine, that's really negative and it's going to create a lot of stress. Changes in the environment, changes in the routine, changes in the household rules. Our pets thrive off of routine. So if you can stick to a routine, that will help them tremendously. Loud noises, so thunderstorms, fireworks. If you live near construction zones, sometimes that will affect pets. Constant disruption when sleeping or eating. As you went through the pandemic, you might have been working from home more. And I love going up and snuggling my cat and petting them and, patting when Finn was still with us. And giving them time to sleep. They're not always going to want that. They need their rest too. So we need to make sure we're recognizing that and embracing that. And then also common causes of stress can include lack of outlets to exercise, to herd, to run or retrieve. So if we're not using that physical environmental enrichment, our pets can actually become stressed. And here's a big one, our own stress. Our pets thrive off of how we are. They are so emotionally connected to us. So who here has ever felt stress and maybe you didn't know it, but your dog displayed like the same symptoms that you had, where all of a sudden they've got like diarrhea and you're like, what is happening? Why are they like doing the same thing I'm doing? And, or maybe you feel fine. And I see people raising their hands. I see this all the time with my clients and my patients. We start going through like the questions, right, during the consultation. And they're like, oh my gosh, My pet has the same things that I do. And I'm like, it's because you're so emotionally connected. They are so in tune with you. And so if we aren't recognizing our own stress, we're going to miss a huge area of being able to heal, for one, ourselves, because that adversely affects our own health, but also it can be the game changer for healing your own pets. Now, what are some of the signs of stress? So dog stress, excessive vocalization, yawning, pacing. They may become lethargic, have a decreased appetite. They might chase their tail. You might see some of these OCD-like behaviors, excessive grooming, chewing at their legs until they create a sore, those acrylic granulomas. You may also notice aggression or changes in behavior. For cats, avoidance can be a big one if they used to come around, lack of or over grooming. So any kitties with those bald bellies and the bald back legs, that can be a sign of stress if you've ruled out urinary tract infections or other underlying medical conditions. They might have decreased appetite, inappropriate urination, spraying, vocalization, pacing, aggression. So these are common signs. There are additional signs of stress, but these are things you can start with to assess, is my pet actually displaying some stress things, and taking notice of that because you can help them. So number one, I want you assessing your stress levels. I want you ideally checking every day with yourself. So we tend to not do this. We tend to say we're fine and we move on with our busy lives. But whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the evening, I want you to assess, how do I feel? If it helps, putting your hand on your heart, closing your eyes, how do I feel today? Taking a moment and grounding yourself. How do you truly feel? Because it will be affecting your pet. Also, making sure we're providing our pets with safe zones, that our cats have all the requirements in a safe place that's away from all the stressors or busyness, being consistent with routines as much as possible. Those routines are key for our dogs and our cats. Making sure we're doing that regular exercise and having playtime with them, that we're avoiding or limiting those stressful situations. Sometimes we can't always avoid those teenagers, right, that are going through some hormonal things. But as long as we have a safe place for our pets and we're providing all the other things, that can make a huge difference. And then making sure we're feeding an optimal diet. We know all about this gut-brain axis and this connection. And it's pretty powerful how stress and gut health are going to interplay together, and we can manipulate both to decrease stress and support optimal gut health, and it goes both ways. But you also need to make sure you're ruling out underlying health conditions to make sure that that's not the reason why your pet is feeling stressed. Now, there's lots of holistic remedies that you can use. So things like CBD, which is going to work on the stress levels through the endocannabinoid system. We won't go deep into that, but there's all these different systems in the body that are working together that we can manipulate with food as medicine, with CBD, by using pheromones like Feel Away, DAP, the dog's pheromone. We can use supplements, things like L-tryptophan, certain amino acids, to help calm and suppress that stress response and bring it back into balance or homeostasis. We can also use essential oils. I use a lot of essential oils with my patients. I guide a lot of pet parents on how to use those safely and effectively. A great way to start is getting a water diffuser and putting it in an open room, and using essential oils from great companies like Animalio, which is made specifically for dogs and cats, and using like lavender or chamomile, or she has blends like Aroma Boost or Kitty Boost, where you can diffuse that. Your pets can come and go, and it's going to help calm them naturally. Also, there's herbal medicines that we can use. So using things like adaptogens, like ashwagandha, to help calm down pets. There's a lot of great brands out there, like Animal Essentials has a lot of great tinctures. You could always start there, but also partnering with a holistic or integrative veterinarian to help guide you on what's best for your pets and where to go. And then we need to be looking at our pet's environmental health. Is your pet's environment toxic? That's a great question, right? We tend to not want to think that because that's kind of scary. I don't want to be living in a toxic environment, but it's really, really important. And this pillar is commonly missed. So some of the studies, HRI Labs is amazing. You can actually test the glyphosate. Glyphosate is Roundup. So this is a common herbicide, pesticide that's sprayed on crops. It's essentially everywhere in our water. 90% of the world's water is contaminated with glyphosate. Unfortunately, when it rains, it's probably raining glyphosate on us. That's how widespread this is. The bad thing is that glyphosate is not only a pesticide or herbicide, so it's killing plants, right, or weeds. It's also one of the most widespread uses of antibiotics. It has antibiotic properties. It works directly by killing bacteria. Guess what your entire microbiome of yourself and your pets makes the majority of the microbiome is bacteria. So glyphosate is directly affecting all of us. And one of the things they did is they looked at how long, so herbicides in the urine of pet dogs, how long after the chemicals were actually applied. They found they lasted a really long time. It wasn't typically like where we think 24, 72 hours, it should be fine. We are finding that weeks later, we're still seeing those levels in the environment. It's showing up in our pet's urine. So this is very important to think about. Also, this goes back to what are you using topically to treat if there are fleas and ticks in the environment? And there's actually an FDA warning about some of these newer medications that are out there. So things like NexGard, your Bravecto, they're all within this certain class of drugs that is a known neurotoxin. And it was thought that it only affected insects, but it actually affects our pets, which is why we see so many pets developing neurological problems, things like seizures, even after one single dose. And just because your pet seems to have been fine previously does not mean that they won't have a reaction. So avoiding these known toxins and using natural insect repellents and being aware of what we're putting topically on our pets, but also in the environment itself, can play a huge part to protecting the immune health, protecting physical health, protecting that gut health. And then the drinking water. So these are just a few areas that are commonly not looked at or even talked about by the veterinarian. I know personally that the drinking water coming out of my tap has 6 cancer-causing contaminants that exceed the Environmental Working Group guidelines. You can go to the Environmental Working Group website, type in your zip code if you live in the States, and it'll bring up reports of what's actually in your tap water. This is why it's so important to know this information, so then you can take tactics to help remedy it. So using things like water filters can play a huge part and help you and also help your pets. We know a lot of heavy metals come through water. And when we do our hair tissue mineral analysis tests for pets, almost actually 100% of pets have at least mercury and aluminum and usually have other heavy metals present. And unfortunately, a lot of these are coming from water sources. Now, toxins, we can't get away from them. We know that we're constantly being bombarded by them. We know that our pets are coming into contact with over 85,000 toxins a year. But what we can do is we can support the detoxification pathways. So this is just the liver detox pathway. There's other pathways, the kidneys, the gut, and even the skin. But by understanding how these detox pathways work, what you can then do is then you can use foods that support those detox pathways or supplements to fill in the gaps. So once again, those high sulfur vegetables, so things like garlic for your dogs, broccoli sprouts, Brussels sprouts, your cruciferous vegetables. We can use foods that are high in glutathione. So asparagus is one of the highest foods in glutathione, and also vitamin C for the antioxidant abilities. So we know also broccoli sprouts have almost 100 times sulforaphanes than broccoli itself. So just by simply integrating in some of these functional foods, we can support those detox pathways and help get those toxins out of your pet's body while supplying the right vitamins and minerals and nutrients to truly optimize how your pet's body is working. And then we have indoor versus outdoor toxins. It can be really difficult to control what's outside, right? We can move to where there's no one else. You can separate yourself, and there's still going to be some toxins that come in. Like I said, glyphosate is in 90% of the water in the world. But here's a couple quick ways to clean up your environment. And these are easy ways to get started. So once a week, if you're currently using products like cleaning chemicals, laundry detergents, so anything that you pull out, your soap detergent to clean dishes, this is a huge source of contamination for a lot of pets when we see chemicals on hair tissue mineral analysis tests. And most people don't even realize that the residue is sticking to that food bowl, and then your pet's actually ingesting it with their food. So once a week, if you're looking at how can I easily do this, is assess the products that you commonly use every single day or week and make a list, and then start changing them out for cleaner products as you run out of each thing. Remember, this doesn't have to be has to happen all at once, and that can also be costly. And I know that's not effective for some people here, but as you start running out of those products, what are the things that I can do and use, or maybe I can even make my own natural cleaners, and it's going to be just as good, but it's going to be safer. So looking at the back of the ingredient list, I love ingredient lists because they tell you a lot of information. If you wouldn't feel good if that got in your mouth, you probably shouldn't be using it. Because think about your pets. They're walking on the floor, they're naked, they lick their paws, they're ingesting that. So that's a great way to think about it. We also want to get rid of artificial fragrances. This is a huge issue. I find this when I do a lot of house consultations. I'll walk in and I'm like, oh, so what are you diffusing or using? Because I can smell it right away. So those Glade plugins, candles can be a problem. They can also be a source if there's lead in the wick. Poor quality essential oils. Do not buy your essential oils off Amazon. It will be adulterated. There will be synthetics. They'll be fake. Don't do it. That is where we run into problems with essential oils. Make sure you're using good quality companies if you're going that route. Make sure you're taking your shoes off. We can't always control what our neighbors are doing, but I can control a little bit what I'm tracking into my house. You can also wipe down your pet's paws and their body after walks. So having a wet washcloth. Some people will turn an old coffee can into a paw cleaner where they just put their pet's paw in there and give it a good squish around and then wipe it down. We can also do detox baths every quarter with our pets. With apple cider vinegar rinses, but we want to be supporting those detoxification pathways with your pets every day if we can. So once again, going back to chlorella or spirulina supplements, which are very gentle and support gut health, or at least 1 week of the month. And if you're in an area where you do need to give things like heartworm preventatives because the risk is really high, that week of the month needs to be around where we're detoxing when we have to give these stronger medications. Now, here's the thing to keep in mind. All of this can feel really overwhelming, but when you have a partner to help guide you along the path, a holistic life becomes easier every step. So with my own family, we took one step each day and we built a foundation following these 5 pillars of a healthy, holistic pet blueprint. Each day getting stronger and less sick. And this is how my clients heal their pets and get results following this blueprint. And here's something to keep in mind. I started with holistic medicine because my husband was sick. I went down that rabbit hole. Hours and hours, years of research, additional certifications and degrees. You may have already had a pet with cancer or another disease, and you vowed to yourself to do everything possible to not go down that path again. Or you want to do everything possible to keep your fur family healthy now and prevent disease. And I see hands going up. I'm right there with you. I get goosebumps saying that because I get it. The small steps and support from people who have been there before are so much more important than the naysayers and people who don't believe in your journey towards holistic medicine for your pets. Remember that. I'm going to read that. The small steps and support from people who have been there before are so much more important than the naysayers and people who don't believe in your journey towards holistic medicine for your pets. Your time is now. You need solutions now, and I want you to remember you're not alone. So meet some of these patients whose lives have changed through holistic medicine. This is the adorable Butters, and Butters came to me because Butters had a mast cell tumor on his eyelid. And it would flare up, he would scratch it, it would bleed, and the remedies were steroids. And then Butters developed a tumor in the mouth, so actually a squamous cell carcinoma. And through using food therapy through using herbal medicine and ultimately looking at how immune health, emotional health, environmental health, gut health play a part to how strong Butters is doing amazing. And the conventional veterinarian is shocked that he has lasted this long. And when I say lasted, he has thrived and done really, really, really well. Also, we have two amazing little pups. We have Cub and Piper, chronic allergies, major anxiety issues. They were actually rescue pups. They came to this pet parent really kind of in a bad way. And we were able to help reverse a lot of the anxiety by looking at how can we introduce fresh food diets and readjust the microbiome and fix that leaky gut condition so that we can avoid things like Apoquel or those steroid injections and really help them heal. And today they're doing amazing through following those 5 pillars, following that blueprint. And then of course, there's my amazing, beautiful Finn. And Finn really drove home the power of what we do through holistic medicine and being able to follow those blueprints and going right back down to those foundations, finding those gaps and how do we help them? So even if you are finding yourself in a situation where like Finn, he had a brain tumor, we were told he had a week left, we were able to give him an amazing quality year and have all those memories to help him feel amazing. Our neighbors, our friends were like, he has a brain tumor. They didn't believe us because he felt so good and he was able to do the things that a normal dog does. That is the power of following a blueprint and implementing these natural remedies. Now, this is not just theory. Until now, I've only been sharing the system with my one-on-one clients. We've got a few people that have actually gone through this program. And like for Butters, Piper, Club, Finn, and so many more pets. So we've tested this entire system, proven its results with my own pets and clients, and a small group of founding members in this program. At this point, I know I can make a greater impact by sharing it with more people, which is why I'm here today. This method is time tested and proven. Yes, holistic medicine can work to achieve optimal pet health. I'm using these strategies for this webinar you're on right now, plus many others to help pets feel their best. And if you're thinking, I'm ready, where do I start? All you have to do is commit, focus, and take action, which you've already done by taking the time to be in this masterclass today. So I just gave you a brief glimpse at the healthy, holistic pet blueprint. But as I'm sure you can imagine, this is just the tip of the iceberg. When it comes to achieving optimal pet health, healing the body, preventing disease through our entire 5-pillar framework. So you have a couple options. You can either stay here and figure it out yourself, or you can get the proven success path. So if you're smart and you decide to work with me, nothing is held back, no missing steps. You just need to follow my lead step by step. I'm on a mission to accelerate your holistic knowledge, to remove those headaches, the bad advice I was given throughout my veterinary career, and give you the exact process to follow to truly build optimal health and wellness for your dogs and cats. And that's what our healthy, holistic pet for life blueprint includes. I've taken the entire process from start to finish and creating optimal pet health through the 5 foundations for all life stages in dogs and cats. So how to use nutrition and navigate this confusing area, detailing what your pet needs to keep them safe and healthy in their environment while protecting gut and immune health, how to help your pet's emotional health and reset your pets through nutrition, environment, supplements, detox, which will reduce vet bills and stress, and put it all into this program with the support you need from a safe community and a holistic vet that's doing this every day. And I'm giving you access for life. So why? The biggest issues I see with the online pet health space is there's so much information out there, each of them trying to teach an aspect of this intricate puzzle of holistic pet care. So maybe there's a Facebook group on why you shouldn't use conventional meds. Isn't helpful if you don't know how to safely and effectively use the holistic medicine. Or a course on first aid doesn't give you long-term health if the foundations aren't there. Or your veterinarian telling you raw food is toxic is super confusing if you don't have the tools, the studies to share with them to have the open conversation. I wanted you to have the best possible launch pad for a healthy, long life for your entire fur family because I've been through it. I'm coming at this with years of experience, experimenting, and finding the things that actually work long-term versus trends. So here's a couple things. Life-changing health in just a few weeks. Marissa is one of my many amazing clients. She was frustrated with conventional options for her dog's bladder stones. She went through an expensive bladder surgery and was told to feed a prescription food for life. Within weeks of following our blueprint, Oreo's feeling better than ever on a fresh food diet and supplements. And then one of our other amazing founding members right now, Barbara, she had to say, Dr. Katie Woodley, you're amazing. Just had an appointment with her integrative vet, Dr. Kangas, and she said the supplements you recommended based on Kai's hair tissue results and medical history are spot on. She also said that Kai's come a long way in the past few months. His diet's well balanced. The adjustments needed are minor. He's doing so much better by following this blueprint. And then we have Madison, who's currently in our amazing community with the blueprint. My favorite so far is Dr. Katie is always there to answer your questions and that the community is also there to help you out. For so long, I've been trying to help 3 of my cats' guts and get them strong enough to be able to try wet food. I appreciated so much that Dr. Katie told me what to start out with, especially since after the gut seminar, I was overwhelmed and thinking I would never be able to help them. Now my babies are on the right track. And then another amazing founding member in our community, Bethany. The biggest positive impact that I've noticed right now is my new confidence in knowing that what I'm giving him, new supplements, is right for him. I do not feel like I'm guessing. I have new hope and definitely feel like that I'm doing something different to help Sparty. I've seen a positive change in Spartacus. So my question is, what are you waiting for? We'd love to have you in our community, but my dream pet parent, this is Art, wants to do everything possible to achieve optimal health, loves learning, is not afraid to ask questions, and is kind to others. They love being a part of a community. Their fur family's health is as important as their own, and you want all the options, and you're not afraid to try things that are a little uncomfortable. So are you next? So the better the fit, the better the results. I'm building a legacy business. I don't just want any pet parent. I want the right pet parents to be a part of this growing community. So do you want in? I want to see hands. I want to see Q&A. Here's how the process works. And I love that. I love seeing you raise your hands. Who's this for? Pet parents, pet store owners, trainers, people who educate pet parents, veterinarians, vet staff who want to learn more holistic medicine. We even have in our community currently a lot of people who work at rescues so they can help educate and share this information. Pet parents who want lifelong health for their family and not just quick fixes. And that also understand that investing in your growth and education and having skin in the game is the only way to truly grow and not stay stuck on that treadmill. So this is for people who are action takers and are actually going to implement the information. So if this sounds like you, you're invited to apply to see if you qualify for one of our interviews to enroll in our Healthy Holistic Pet for Life Blueprint program. I've personally set aside time in the next 7 days to talk to you and see if we can help. That call, if we find that it's a good fit, it's approximately 45 minutes, and the intention is to understand your holistic pet care frustrations and goals and identify how and if we are a fit to work together inside of our Healthy Holistic Pet for Life Blueprint program. So this link will be emailed to you after this webinar. You can go here, you can fill it out. And there's a lot of people on this masterclass and our schedule can only handle 7 calls a day. So you must apply now if you feel like you want to give it a try, see if it's a great fit for you. And I want you to remember, your pet's health is an investment. It's not an expense. And I promise what you put into them is what you will get out. And there's no better time than now to join our amazing community, gain the tools, the training, but also that weekly support, and you get it all for life. So here's what I know to be true. I would not be where I am today without investing and working with the people who were where I wanted to be. So I want to ask you, where do you want to be in 1 year with your fur family's health? So once again, there's the link to apply for one of those interview spots. We'll get back to you as soon as possible within typically 12 to 24 hours with a link to schedule that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the floor up for questions. So drop your questions in the Q&A and I will go through that. I'm going to end the slideshow and share my screen and bring up the Q&A. Okay, let me bring this up and we'll go through your questions. All right, so let me start towards, let me make sure there weren't any at the beginning. And okay, so Jan has a question. When my golden retriever was 9 weeks old, tummy turned dark almost overnight, stayed like that until a few weeks ago. Can you give me a reason for this? She had diarrhea and had her vaccination before she came to me. So a lot of times what happens when we see skin changes, there's this entire gut skin axis. So we have gut brain axis that's connected. We also have gut skin axis. And so when we are treating skin disease, a lot of times your conventional side, conventional medicine will only treat the skin. They're treating the secondary infection and they're missing that root cause, the actual gut health issue. So what can happen is when we give a vaccination, there's a time and a place, I'm not against vaccines, when we use them appropriately for our pets based on their environment and their possible exposure and how strong their health is. But what can happen, and this is how vaccines work, is they stimulate the immune system to mount an immune response so that we hopefully form like memory cells that remember what this looks like. So if they come into contact with the virus, the parvovirus distemper, the body can mount an appropriate immune response. So when I see skin changes, especially after a vaccination, my question is, do we have a secondary yeast infection or a secondary overgrowth of bacteria, or typically it's usually a yeast infection because of a leaky gut problem, where now we have things that are leaking out of the GI tract, so that are getting into the circulatory system and creating an overreaction, and it's manifesting on the skin. So especially since you mentioned diarrhea, that could have also been a vaccine reaction. And so focusing on gut health and healing that, making sure we're feeding those species appropriate diets, potentially using things like your probiotics, digestive enzymes can play a big part, while using natural remedies for healing that skin infection, using things sometimes like colloidal silver, or even using some like coconut oil mixed with colloidal silver can make a big difference. All right, Melinda. During the Pet Summit, you mentioned a facility or college that does pet fur mineral testing. Would you please tell again here anything you may want to advise? Thank you. Love your presentations. My last two German Shepherds died suddenly from undiagnosed cancer. I'm so sorry. I unfortunately know how that feels. Personally, I'm so glad you're here learning though, Melinda. I love that. And we do hair tissue mineral analysis tests. So you can actually go to the naturalpetdoctor.com and we take hair samples from pets across the world. We send them to a specific lab that runs it a special way, doesn't pre-wash it to affect those results. And then we create reports. So if you go to the Natural Pet Care Shop link under the naturalpetdoctor.com, you'll be able to see like nutritional hair tissue tests analysis. And so we also look at what nutrition your pets are on, and we can formulate treatment plans based on that too, and make specific recommendations. So you can go there. Other companies that also do hair tissue tests analysis are going to be Dr. Peter Tobias, the hair IQ tests, and Dr. Ava Frick also does them. There's a lot of holistic practitioners that will include those hair tissue tests too, because they're very powerful at helping to figure out where are these imbalances, what are the heavy metals in the body, and then we can actually know specifically what we need to tweak and adjust based on what's going on in your pet. All right, I have a question from an anonymous person. My dog has had high liver enzymes for a few years, doing well on Denisil. No diet change, wondering how you feel about raw for high liver enzymes. That will depend on the pet. And so depending on, like, my question is always, well, why are there high liver values? So I find looking at pets holistically or from this integrative approach versus looking at symptoms is a very different question that I ask of my patients. Why is that occurring? What happened? What was the root cause? So liver enzymes are a response to something. Are there toxins? Is the gallbladder not working? Do we have severe leaky gut issues? So I'd be looking at all of those factors. So I can't give a specific. A raw food diet may actually help. You do have to be careful if there is something like liver failure where we need to be using certain types of proteins that are broken down, that aren't, like with liver shunts too. You do have to be careful. But my first question would be, why are there high liver values? Is there Cushing's? Is there some underlying endocrine disease? But why did that happen to lead to those imbalances and cause that disease? So I'd have to know more information, but that's the questions I'd be asking the veterinarian. Why are they high? Can we figure out why? Can we do further tests to figure that out? Of course you can. It's not always an easy process, and it's not always the fastest, but it's really, really important. Lisa is there. So my Snowball did a sonogram for vomiting every week. It was normal. So his veterinarian wants to give him Pepcid. Is there anything natural I can use for cats with sensitive stomachs? So an ultrasound is one diagnostic test. I'd be looking at potentially doing like a Texas A&M GI panel if you're in the US to identify, do we have something like inflammatory bowel disease? And Pepcid is not going to fix that. Also, what foods are we feeding? Ideally feeding not carbohydrate foods, or a lot of those prescription diets for these cats, especially with inflammatory bowel disease, have that ingredient carrageenan, which is a known GI irritant, which just blows my mind. Why is that in there? So I'd be looking at that. Some of the supplements that we use to help calm things for pets that are sensitive and have GI issues are things like slippery elm, marshmallow root, animal essentials, colon rescue can be one, but always make sure you're talking to your veterinarian, because you do have to make sure you're giving that at separate times from medications, because it can potentially inhibit absorption of those medications. All right. So another anonymous, I have 8-year-old, 15-pound unneutered male dog. Is there anything I can give him as he gets older, since he's not been neutered, to ensure his healthy prostate? Everything we just talked about. I think that was at the beginning of the webinar. So hopefully all the things, all those foundations we need to be addressing in order to keep the overall body healthy, because that chronic prostatitis, those issues that can occur over time, are those hormones are out of balance. Do we have leaky gut? What are the stress levels? What's going on in the environment? Are we able to detox properly? So I'd be looking at all of those things and addressing that to make sure that we're keeping the body in balance, or what we call homeostasis. I'm from Canada. I do not trust the commercial raw that is sold here being balanced. So I'm wondering what then is better, freeze dry or dehydrated. For this person, it's anonymous, so I can't say your name. There is an entire, so Rodney Habib and Dr. Karen Becker, they actually did an entire database. I'm trying to remember the name now. I can't think of the name. I'm sure if you look up like Rodney Habib, Canadian raw food diets, they tested a lot of those foods. And there were some that were actually balanced, but you're 100% right. A lot of those foods are not balanced, just like anything. This is why I like rotation and variety. But your freeze dried, you're just going to have to see what works best for your pet. Freeze dried, dehydrated are good alternative options that you can use, but I highly recommend rotating companies and rotating varieties within those companies too, for different protein sources and ingredients to help keep those diets balanced. All right, Maria. Alternative treatments instead of surgery for an ACL tear for my 13-and-a-half-year-old Maltese mix that would help her heal. We're using the Assisi loop now, and I hope to take her for acupuncture and hydrotherapy. Wondering what herbs would be helpful. She's been off kibble for almost 3 years, takes various supplements such as omega-3 fatty acids, really want to have her treated more holistically. So this is a great question. I went through it personally with my 75-pound German Shepherd, 2 tears. We did not have to do surgery. Doing hydrotherapy, doing physical therapy, doing acupuncture, laser therapy, those are all great alternatives to really help. And then keep in mind, there are studies that have come out that have actually shown that a lot of times these cruciate ligament issues are due to a manganese deficiency. And so there's whole food supplements, like I use standard process supplements for a lot of my patients because it uses whole foods and glandulars to help support them. They have a specific Ligaplex product that I use for a lot of these pets. You can always send us an email if you want the code to access the standard process store. So Ligaplex 2 is the one that I use. It is a human supplement, so we dose based on size, downgrading from 150-pound dosage. But I would definitely look at using some whole food sources to get back in those nutrients, those minerals. I'd also be looking at things like curcumin or natural anti-inflammatories products. There's a lot of products out there on the market that are made for pets, so I'd take a look for those. But those starting there, good joint support, reducing inflammation, and then using those alternative therapies to really help build up strength in the muscle again are essential and key to avoiding those surgeries. But with small dogs, it can be, as long as they haven't torn their meniscus, which is really, really painful, a lot of times you can actually treat them holistically and avoid surgery. Terry, is elk velvet antler as a joint supplement be safe for your dog long term? Are there any concerns with hormonal cancers due to growth factors for intact dogs? I'm confused by the question is two separate ones, but elk velvet antler can definitely be a good joint supplement. I would just make sure it's being sourced appropriately. And there are a lot of different things that we can use for long-term health for joints. That is just one of many. Any concerns with hormonal cancers due to growth factors for intact dogs? We tend to see the opposite, actually. There's more of a protective effect from the Golden Retriever lifetime studies from the Morris Animal Foundation, where pets were neutered too early and it increased their risks of like hemangiosarcomas, osteosarcomas. So having intact dogs, as long as we're doing all these, looking at all these other pillars, we can actually keep these pets feeling really, really good for a long period of time. Their joints tend to be stronger. So as long as we're hitting those pillars, it depends on what foods we're feeding, other supplements, the environment and stress and emotional health. Those are all huge factors for making sure that our pets are staying strong and healthy. All right. Bookie, do you address canine mental illness? Seriously, everything, including a veterinary behaviorist, has been done for my poor little Lucrezia, and I see 2 holistic vets. I mean, this is hard to say what's been done, but you know, my question is, I imagine they're looking at gut health and they're looking at dysbiosis, and they've done like animal biome tests, and then also looking, is there an issue with the immune health? What is the level of inflammation? Are we dealing with a heavy metal issue? So doing a hair tissue mineral analysis test. With mental health behavior issues, because of the strong connection to the gut brain axis, so we call that specifically brain on fire. That's actually something we teach in our program. We talk a lot about it because so many pets actually have this brain on fire, and we can manipulate the way that the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic, we can use certain tools and tactics to help get that pet back into the rest and digest, decrease neuroinflammation, and really help them. So I can't say 100% that I could fix it, but going back to those foundations and looking at how everything interconnects and relates together, I would say something's obviously being missed. And it doesn't mean that it's always easy to figure out, and it can take a little while, and also it can take a while to figure out what things are off. But I would 100% say that with behavior issues, there's a lot of different things that you can do. So I don't know if that truly helps, but it is something that we do talk a lot about in that program. Anonymous, how would you go about making a lightly cooked food for your dog that's balanced? This question is very broad. So I would recommend getting Feeding Dogs by Dr. Connor Brady is a great book. It talks about raw food, but it also is pretty much like a manual. Like you can share this with your vet as a Christmas gift or holiday gift if they're against like raw or fresh food diets, because there's a lot of science behind why we need to be transitioning our pets to fresh food, less processed diets. Also, I would take a look at Dr. Judy Morgan's Yin and Yang recipe books. And then your Perfectly Rawsome also has a great resource for some balanced food recipes that you can take a look at, but just be careful with like looking at recipes online. A lot of those are very unbalanced and don't even have like calcium sources. That's a commonly missed one. So I'd go to those resources and check it out. So Lorena, flea and tick natural product to avoid them. We have an entire article on our blog on the naturalpetdoctor.com. So it's natural remedies for fleas and ticks. And so we talk a lot about different essential oils, foods. So definitely go check that out for everyone that wants to get more information on using natural remedies for flea and tick products. Pauline, fussy, GSD, who can detect a fragment of greens? Oh yes, these ones make it a little harder. Would it be okay to run our veggies through the wand or NutriBullet? 100%. The other thing I tend to do is add in broth or even raw goat milk, or even using meat baby food and mixing that in. And that can help with those greens. And then also, like I mentioned, your broccoli sprouts are going to have a higher concentration of nutrients and we don't need as much. So picking some of these superfoods and using those instead can make it easier for getting some of these nutrients into pets that are super picky. Let's see, James asking about titers from your vet. The problem is most conventional vets charge. Yes, they do. They ramp it up. The middleman is getting paid. Well, and they don't know how to interpret it. So it's like a huge time commitment to them to try to figure out how to give you appropriate information. So what I would recommend is for everyone where your veterinarian is not familiar with titers, you can use Protect the Pets, or you can use HemoPet if you're in the States, and you can have your veterinarian draw the sample, and there's all the information on Protect the Pets and also on HemoPet for the sample. You can print it out, bring it in, give it to your veterinarian. They draw the blood. They'll probably charge you for the blood draw, which is fine. And then you can take it and send it in, and they'll give you that interpretation. Kansas State is the only one for the rabies titers. That can be a little bit harder because it's required by law, but that's where detox is really, really important if you're having to give those vaccinations. Lori, I was adding freeze-dried treats, tripe heart to my dog's meals, no kibble, but he's still losing weight. Isn't freeze-dried considered good quality food? It is, but my question is, how severe is the leaky gut that's probably present? Why isn't he absorbing? Why is he having issues? Those foods can be really rich, especially if we have dysbiosis. What that means is good bacteria, bad bacteria are out of balance. And so I'd be looking at more of making sure we don't have a food sensitivity. I would also be looking at healing the gut. So using more gut support to heal if there is a leaky gut. But there are a lot of different diagnostic tests that you can do, ask your veterinarian about to figure out what is some of those root causes. Why are they not absorbing things? Becky, I heard another holistic vet who said it's not good to use reverse osmosis water for pets. I use reverse osmosis for myself, my dog, because of the high chlorine and fluoride levels. What type of water do you recommend for your pets? This is a huge debate. And then I saw a webinar that I actually haven't watched yet. So there's my transparency. I need to watch it on carbonated water being the best for your pet. Honestly, I would say start with just filtering. So if you can get, like we use a Berkey filter, your Brita filters don't filter a ton out, but it'll still be better than your tap water. But if you're using your reverse osmosis, it's going to be better than doing your tap water. So yeah, there's so much junk in the tap water. So filtering it, I would be fine with what you're currently doing. Lorena, what do you think about Origin kibble with fresh food? I mean, so this is where using those toppers will help with getting more nutrients into the food. I tend to recommend with our kibble fed pets, like making sure we're adding enough moisture, we're supporting gut health, because we do know that there's still going to be chemicals due to the way those pet foods are processed. They do tend to use lower quality ingredients, even Origin. So if we can add in fresh food, or maybe even we can mix it up. So if for some reason you can't afford having them on like raw food or fresh food diets, maybe doing it once a week and having some of that as an option just to mix it up and help that microbiome. But I'd be looking at probiotics, definitely digestive enzymes to help break down proteins, fats, and carbs. Sandra, why would my raw fed dog have a high urine pH of 8.5, no crystals in urine? All their labs are normal. Comes down to probably diet. So usually it depends, and I don't know the full story for this, but higher carb diets make a more alkaline urine, which means it raises the pH. So if your pet's on a kibble diet, that could be why, but also if they're not and you're feeding a lot of vegetable matter, that's going to increase the pH of the urine. So we do have to be a little bit careful with what we're doing and how we're balancing it. It's good that there's no bacteria, because that, or I'd be looking also for bacteria. If you're not seeing crystals, I imagine they're not seeing white blood cells, red blood cells, but those would be things that I'd be looking at. I'd be going to diet if a bacterial infection's been ruled out. Tina, can you please show the application sign up again? Let me go to it. Okay, can you see it? Thumbs up if you can see that. Participants can now see. Just a thumbs up if there's people here. Can you see the application, the link? Okay, perfect. All right, I'll leave that up so that way you can take a look at that, and you'll be getting an email too. Denicia, how to know when, it's great to see you here, how to know when to use foods to fill in the gaps or supplements. So that's where that hair tissue mineral analysis test is really powerful. So being able to see like calcium and magnesium are really low. Are these pets in a stress state? Is there a lot of inflammation in the body? Are we also battling heavy metals? So I find those are really, really helpful. And also if you know that the pet's environment is really stressful, we know that zinc is like dumped immediately with stress. So going through, once again, through those different foundations and using different diagnostics, and also analyzing diet too. Like we do have basic requirements that we can follow from AFCO and NRC, those guidelines. So we can actually formulate the diets and see, are we actually hitting the minimums? Hopefully we're getting like the optimal range, but then taking that information, looking at what's going on with this pet, what's going on with their gut health and their absorption, then we can tweak and adjust what those pets truly need to achieve optimal health and help them. Okay, let's see. Debbie, I bought some Brussels sprouts as a topper and only one pup likes them. Should they be cooked some or add the raw chopped up? Just raw. Or sorry, not Brussels. I was thinking broccoli sprouts. Brussels sprouts, definitely you want to like cook them. They can be a little more fibrous, harder to break down. It'll just make it easier for them to digest. Now, some pets do okay with like those raw vegetables, but I just recommend lightly cooking them. Also, it can increase absorption of certain vitamins and minerals too. Tony, what's a good probiotic for a cat who has hyperthyroid and eye inflammation? Is it better to give with food or in between meals? I'd first be looking at what's going on with the diet. What kind of food are we feeding? If we're as close to a species appropriate diet, AKA fresh food, no kibble, limited inflammatory ingredients, preservatives, things like that. So ideally freeze dried, ideally raw if the cat can handle it. Then I'd be looking at supplements. Also, so it's really hard to say like what's a good probiotic. There's a lot of different ones. I imagine they're on medications if they're hyperthyroid. If pets are on medications, Saccharomyces tends to be a really good one. Let's see. Okay. And one of the things too, for everyone entering, so we've gone through, so this healthy holistic blueprint, there is a cost to it, just FYI. So that's something we're going through the applications and also for the interviews too. That is something that we discuss with the program itself. So we just went through actually the founding members going through that. So we had a group of about 40 pet parents that gave feedback on the materials, the content that have been engaging in this community that you would enter, that they're just phenomenal. I'm not biased. They're just incredible, huge wealth of information. And then we do weekly Q&As. So we're doing a 2-hour Q&A where it's exactly like this, answering your questions, guiding you through the material, and you can go through that material at your own pace. That material is currently being put into a program based on those founding members' feedback. And so you'd be starting this new program in the middle towards the end of January. So you have time to get through the holidays, to get through things, and you can save your seat. You can enter at any time. So if right now is not a good time, we can always schedule something later on. But it's going to be that you're going to have the ability to access resources, guides, supplements, and then once again, like the training on all of these foundations and taking a deep dive. So there's hours and hours of content that you're going to be able to watch, rewatch, go back through, print out, take to your veterinarian, and also ask those questions. And then also have that community of just incredible pet parents to support you, guide you, along with me, mentoring, coaching, and helping. It's just a really, really neat program to help guide pet parents like yourself. Let's see, we'll take a couple more. We still have a few people here. Let's see. I'm trying to use mostly fresh food, but my 90-pound dog requires a lot of food per day. Yes, they do. Can you suggest a healthier kibble to use along with fresh foods? So a lot of the fresh kibbles that I recommend are going to be probably more expensive for a 90-pound dog. But like the brands that are lightly cooked or baked, so like Lotus, but they tend to come in smaller bags. Using, I would say, like your higher end kibbles, like Origin, like someone mentioned, but looking at the ingredient list and making sure there's no like artificial flavorings that that recalls also. So dogfoodadvisor.com, go through their website, see if there's been any recalls. And I'm definitely integrative vet. I'd ask them too if they have any recommendations based on your pet and what they know about your pet and their history. Let's see. So I have a Yorkie whose tear ducts don't produce tears. So that's that dry eye, gets special teardrops, but also gets gassiness frequently, but not diarrhea. She's on home cooked meals, Dr. Tobias vitamins. What can I do to reduce it? I'd be looking at gut health. And there's obviously something off with the like leaky gut. So I recommend working with a holistic veterinarian or even looking at doing a program like this if it's something where you want to dive deeper into these pillars and gain confidence and support from a holistic community, and also guidance and Q&As if things are coming up. What can we do if this isn't working? What are other supplements we can try? So that's the power and benefits of this type of community. Brandy, let's see. My senior rescue pom has had multiple bouts of pancreatitis. We'll do okay for a few months or so, then it happens again. Literally can't afford any more expensive vet bills. She's on Royal Canin low-fat GI can and boiled chicken breast, shred up in blender, and that's it. Any suggestions on what to do if pancreatitis? I would look at getting, so the prescription food is really expensive. It can be. I would look at partnering with a nutritionist and formulating a home cooked diet that will probably actually be cheaper over time and help heal, because those GI low fat cans can have really poor quality ingredients. Now, some pets do really well, but I'd be looking at getting additional information rather than being stuck on that treadmill we talked about. Let's see. I'm gonna see. I see a couple repeats. I love Trisha. I'm so happy to see you. I'm pretty sure this is the Trisha I know. So who's an amazing member of our community. And so what kind of tea would you recommend to help one absorb all this wonderful information you've given us tonight? So I love a good chamomile tea with lavender in the evening to relax. And here's the thing, you can use chamomile and lavender tea in your pet's food to support good gut health, reduce inflammation, help with gassiness, and it also helps calm them. So it's hitting on a lot of those pillars. So I'm so glad, Trisha, that you mentioned that. I love my teas. You'll learn that if you become a part of our community. I love using teas. I find they're sometimes easier to give than using herbs or other like Chinese herbs and other supplements, or depending on where you're at in the world, most people can access tea. So, all right. Okay, I'm seeing a couple repeaters. The same questions. Okay. What I'm going to do. Awesome. Okay. Do you put the whole tea in the food? So what I do is I brew a cup of tea. So you're not necessarily using the actual dried herbs. You can use that. We talk a lot about using self-selection with cats, especially, and using that in herb gardens. So that is definitely something that we teach and talk about for optimizing with different types of herbs to help heal the body for what's going on and support emotional health and gut health. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap it up for everyone. I really appreciate everyone being here live, taking time out of your evening to learn a little bit more, join in, ask those questions, and truly be an advocate for your pet. Like I said, I will send out an email with the replay of this webinar for you to rewatch. We'll also have the links if you decide you want to learn more about the program and see if it is something that maybe in the new year, getting these pets on the right path, joining an amazing community and getting help and guidance is the path forward. And remember, it's access for life. This is a lifetime program. So it's the nice thing is too, Jane, I see a question like, is it an ongoing monthly membership? It's a one-time fee. And so that's it's not something where you're hit up every single year. There's this one-time fee, that's it. And then you have access for life to our weekly Q&As, the content, upgrades to the content, because we all know medicine changes. And you also get access to that community. So I would love to see as many people here apply for that, join our community. I look forward to talking with you on the interviews and learning more about your pets and your fur family. So once again, I am Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor. You can learn more about me and even access some of the other services and information we offer at thenaturalpetdoctor.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media, The Natural Pet Doctor, on Instagram and Facebook, and follow our YouTube channel for a lot of free information too. So Dr. Katie Woodley, The Natural Pet Doctor. Have a great evening, everyone. Take care, and I will see you soon.